Of June 13th. I'd like to get the meeting started with the Pledge of Allegiance led by Terry Sater.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Again, sorry for the delay, folks, but I know we had on the agenda to have a presentation from the gummy bears, but I don't see any gummy bears in attendance. So if they're not on the hybrid meeting, I guess we'll just postpone that till next week, next meeting. So, are there any other open forum announcements from? I'll just go ahead first. Tomorrow is Flag Day. At 6 o'clock at American Legion Post 437 on Dunstable Road is the annual Flag Day ceremony and disposal of American flags according to the correct procedure. So if you can make it at 6, that'd be great. And if you've got any flags that need to be retired, they will do it appropriately. Drop them off at the Legion Hall. Christine?
I was notified today and that it's been finalized that on Wednesday, June 21st, which is next Wednesday from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. in this room, the Land Use Department and the NIMCOG, so our Northern Middlesex Council of Governments, will be holding a charrette regarding the Graniteville neighborhood related to brownfields and redevelopment of Graniteville, specifically 12 North Main Street. So those invites just went up on Facebook and Twitter. They'll go up on our town website tomorrow, and some people did get individual emails as well. So next Wednesday, June 21st, 6:30 to 8:30 in this room, in person only, Graniteville neighborhood charrette through those items. And I see Tom LaFlamme has a hand raised.
Okay, anybody else on the board? Okay, Tom?
I think.
Hey, good evening. Thank you very much. I just wanted to thank the student government groups at the Westford Academy. They held a couple roundtable discussions that Ms. Perrimer-Sweet and Mr. Sanders and I, as well, along with some other members of different committees, were able to engage with some of our young people, and we got some really good feedback, and they had some great questions. So I do just want to recognize that organization for putting that together.
Thanks. Anybody else in the audience? I don't see anybody online, so with that, we'll move to our first agenda item, which is a joint meeting with the school committee, who was already here and in session from our last meeting. The town moderator to appoint one alternative representative to the Neshoba Valley Technical High School Committee, and this is when I get to give pass control to our moderator, who'll be far better than I am at running a meeting. So, Angela, take it away.
Thank you, Scott. So we're lucky enough to have 3 possible candidates for this committee position. William Lehman. I just make a note on your agenda. It's wrong. It's Abby Matthew, not Matthew Abby, and Vibu Jane. And first, we'd like to just hear a sentence or two from each of the candidates so that you can know what they're about. So can we start with William Lehman? Are you here?
Actually, point of order, do you need to have nominations first, or can you do this first?
No, I think you can hear from them
Okay,
first.
okay.
And then. Nope. Okay, how about Abby Matthew? Just a brief sentence or two about why you're interested in the position. You can have a seat right there.
Sure. My interest is because I've been a big champion of the work school system, and would like to be involved in that as it involves. I'm an engineer background, and I look forward to the participation in the school system.
Great. Thank you. And Vibu Jane? Okay, so we have 3 candidates. Can I have nominations for any of the 3 candidates?
I'll nominate Abby Matthew.
Thank you. Any other nominations from the school committee or the select board? All right. Well, let's take a vote then. All in favor of Abby Matthew being appointed to the alternate position at the Neshoba Valley Technical High School Committee, please say aye. Yep.
Oh, with
Okay,
the
okay.
poll, please.
Chris?
Aye.
Andrea?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Okay. Valerie?
Aye.
Aye. Catherine? It's Bill. Bill, say aye.
Okay. Any opposed? Looks like it's unanimous, so we have our appointment to the alternate position. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Abby.
Yeah. I'm going to adjourn the school committee
Okay.
while I'm walking out the door.
Very efficient.
All there?
Aye.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, so just a point of, I guess, notification. Tom Clay is traveling tonight. He's hybrid, so all of our votes in the select board have to be by roll call. With that, I would like to move to the next agenda item, which is a public hearing for request of transfer of a Mass General Law,
Doesn't matter.
We actually have to keep the doors open. I'm sorry. Thank
Mass
you.
General Law, Section 138-15, wine and malt liquor beverage license from Lake Brook Realty, Inc., to Kennel Market, Inc., doing business as Blue Market, 64 Brookside Road. Is there a motion to open the hearing?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, Tom?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Andrea?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Aye. So, welcome, and I guess Attorney Robbins, it's your...
Good evening, Mr. Chair. For the record, Attorney Melissa Robbins from the law firm of Deshane and gosh, do you guys hear that? Farrell and Robbins. Redact that, Patty, please. Also on the line with me is Tom Truax, who's counsel for Comet Market. We're here tonight to request a transfer of the liquor license from I've thrown myself off now. I've got to start all over. New Run Corporation to Comet Market. I'll turn it over to Tom just to give you a brief overview of the transfer. You have a full packet inside of your packet. Everything's been applied for to the ABCC, and we'd request your approval this evening. Go ahead, Tom.
Here we go.
You're on mute.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Chair, members of the board, Attorney Tom Truax, Attorney Truax of Salem, Massachusetts, appearing on behalf of the proposed transferee, Kemet Market, Inc. I apologize I could not be there in person. I'm here at the airport right now picking up my wife, so hopefully the acoustics, you can hear me. I see that the principals of the corporation are there before you in person. You have Mr. Rafiq Hanna. He's the president of the corporation. He's also the proposed license manager. And with him is his wife, Marion Elias. She's the treasurer of the corporation. As Melissa mentioned, this is the application before you is a transfer application, but it's a special transfer application. It's an application by foreclosure. Melissa represented the landlord, and the landlord, Lake Brook Realty, foreclosed on the loan that they gave to Nuren Corporation, who is the current license holder. There was a pledge of license, there was a security agreement, there was a UCC filing statement, and most importantly, there was a pledge of license that the town and the ABCC approved. There was a default on that note, the payments on the promissory note, and Lake Brook Realty sent proper notice, and they also foreclosed on the license. So Lake Brook and Kemet Market subsequently entered into an agreement to purchase the license. All the backup documentation has been included in the package, including the promissory note, the agreement between the parties, the UCC filing, the pledge of license, and the approval of the pledge of license by the ABCC, as well as the notice of default. So everything is there in order to back up the petition, transfer petition by foreclosure. This has also been, Melissa and I also ran this entire scenario and the procedure by with the ABCC and Ralph Sacramone, who's the executive director of the ABCC. So everything was given a green light. So now we are before you. As for experience, while Mr. Hanna has not managed a package store before, he has had over 3 years of experience as a manager of a convenience store. And he has been working at this Westboro store for, since April. Now, as you know, tobacco carding requirements are identical to the requirements for beer and wine carding requirements. As his 3 years of experience at E-Market, I believe it was in Tewksbury where he worked as the manager, no tobacco violations. There's been no tobacco violations here at the store here in Westford. Additionally, the store itself has a point of sale system that automatically triggers a card requirement. So when an item is scanned through the system that is either tobacco, beer or wine, the point of sale system automatically requires that the customer before them produce an ID. The customer ID is then scanned and the appropriate age is also recorded, and if it's okay, a green light comes from the point of sale system. In addition, Mr. Hanna has a proper procedure, which I agree with 100%, and that is not only do you have to do the system with the point of sale system check, you also have to look at the person in front of you. So the fact that you have a card in front of you with the fact that you're getting the card checked by a point of sale system is never enough. You need to check the card. So you're checking the photo ID of the person in front of you. You're checking the requirements for height. So if you have someone that's before you that is 6'2" and the ID says 5'5", you know you have a problem. So you have a point of sale system and you have procedures that have been adopted by Mr. Hanna for the store, and in his prior operations, he's done the same thing. In addition, Mr. Hanna has a, let's see here. He has been training at his friend's package store in Lawrence. It's a package store. I know the store. I know the person. He's a client of mine. He's also a friend of Mr. Hanna. So in anticipation of this whole procedure of obtaining a liquor license, he's been training at that store in Lawrence for the past since April. So he's been there every Saturday or Sunday each week since about April, the mid-April, I believe, and he continues to do that up to the present date. In addition, he will continue to do that until the ABCC approves it. So you're going to have 3 months of approximately maybe 3 to 4 months of training before the license is even given to him by the town of Westford if it's approved tonight. In addition, both he and his wife, Marion, will be TIPS trained. And in terms of the operation of the store is the way it is right now. He will be operating the same hours that are now on the current license. I believe it's 8 to 11 Monday through Saturday, and I believe it's 10 to 11. However, his store hours will not be the same as the license. He will not be opening and staying open until 11 o'clock. His store hours will be 7 to 9 and 7 to 10 in the summer hours. Obviously, he will not be doing sales before 8 o'clock. He understands the rules on that. So all in all, I think you're going to have a good group coming in here. They've been running the store very well. I've been to see the store, the beautiful store. It needs the beer and wine back, and we would be requesting approval, and we'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. First, I guess, Patty, is there all the paperwork in order from your perspective?
It is. Andy in my office handled most of this, although I have met Marion. And they've been a long time waiting to get this taken care of.
Correct.
So
We've been working very hard.
everything seemed looked like they got it all together.
Any questions from the board? You want to say anything? You came tonight. I don't want to shut you off. Welcome, perhaps welcome, but if you want to say anything, feel free. You don't have to. Just asking.
I think Tom covered everything, yeah.
Any comments from the audience? Nothing online. So is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Wait, we should close the hearing first.
Okay. Motion to
So
approve.
moved to close the hearing.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor? Tom?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Andrea? John?
Aye.
Aye. Now is there a motion to
Now
approve
I'll
the?
move to approve.
And John had a second already. So Tom?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Andrea?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
I'm an aye. So congratulations. and-
Congratulations, welcome to Westford.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Good night.
Next item is another public hearing for a poll petition from National Grid, which is, this is actually a new request. We have to have another motion to open the public hearing, so is there one?
Move to open.
Second.
Okay, Tom?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Andrea?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
I'm an aye. Hopefully someone's here from National Grid to speak to this.
I'm told that Sam Eng would be here. I don't see him online or in the room.
Do you see him, Eric? Okay, and so it was 7:10, and we're well past that, so we could be here. So I guess we need a motion to continue the public hearing until
June
7:10 on June
27th.
27th? At 7:10. So, is there a motion?
Yes, so moved.
And I think Tom just seconded, so, John?
Aye.
Andrea?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
I'm an aye, so we'll buy back some time that way. Thank you. Thank you. Next item is a consent agenda. To approve the following, a banner request for the Westford Knights football and cheer. Applicant is Kerry Talks. Dates June 15th, 2023 through June 24th, 2023 in front of the First Parish Church. And secondly, a street closure request for a neighborhood block party. Applicant is Stacy Bruce. Dates June 23rd, 2023 from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. at number 11 through 15 Sherwood Road. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, John?
Aye.
Andrea?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Next item is strategic planning retreat, and Kristen, over to you.
Great, thank you. So in past board meetings, we had discussed a date of a strategic planning retreat to be held at Kimball Farms, traditionally, as you have held it in the past. The board voted to hold that on Thursday, September 7th from 5 to 8 p.m. So that is confirmed with the event, and we'll start publicizing that in the near future. You'd asked us to brainstorm some considerations for topics and ideas. So before you this evening, we have 3 topics and are willing to entertain some more, but understand that some will be presentations and others might be just posters and areas for people to go about. So the first one is related to our MBTA communities requirement by the state. Up here it says MBTA Communities Multifamily Advisory Committee. That committee has been put in place. The town has chosen Dodson Flinker as our consultant to help walk us through the MBTA communities process. And this would really be a discussion related to multifamily housing in the town of Westford and the mandate that is being put on us by the state. So that is one of the potential topics for discussion. We had also discussed potentially the school feasibility study related to what they're investigating now, and water PFAS and water rates. So it'd certainly entertain any other ideas or thoughts related to this. I have put it out to department heads, have not gotten a huge amount of input right now, but I will put that out back again. We have a department head meeting next Wednesday. I don't know if any other board members have comments related to these topics or other topics that they're hearing in the community that would be of interest at this retreat.
I had one possible thought on this. Budgets will be something that we're all going to be talking about over the next several months. Thought potentially maybe having one of these sessions being on municipal budgeting and financing, something along the lines of the Show Me the Money presentation that Dan did a while back. I found that incredibly helpful. I think anybody can benefit from that. I don't know if we have time to do the whole one. We might have to do a smaller subset of it, but it might be something that residents would enjoy learning more about.
Any other thoughts? Audience, anybody got a compelling thought for retreats? Okay, so that would give us 4 items, so you could either do, pick 2 of the 4, or you could do 2 consecutive sessions back to back, and people could pick the choice of, which we've done in the past too. We've done it both ways, so. if anybody has a preference, or if you wanted to decide later on and just think about it, but that's, it's good to have a fourth option.
Yes, why don't we think about it?
Okay.
We can put this on for a future agenda. I think I would just need, beginning of July to understand where we're going, to make sure all the departments or relative boards and committees are prepared for what they need.
And also, you said you had a department heads meeting next Wednesday, so
Correct.
it gives them one last chance
Yep.
if they have any ideas or
Exactly.
any thoughts to share.
Yep.
I do like the school feasibility study option. Has anybody talked to the school committee about that? I mean, presumably they would be the ones running that.
We haven't specifically talked to them just because we haven't seen what the feasibility study has to say, but we can certainly
It
investigate.
might be
that.
helpful just to know if they're on board with it,
Yep.
if we do choose that as one of the topics.
Sure.
Anything else? Okay, moving along to old and new business. Request to endorse the Climate Action Roadmap 2.0, discuss immediate priorities, and discuss select board involvement with the Clean Energy and Sustainability Committee. And I'm not sure who's talking, Mike or not, but welcome, Susan, if it's you.
Great, thank you. Mike Berlinski, Chair of the Clean Energy and Sustainability Committee, and I have Sue Thomas, our Sustainability Coordinator, here too. We do have a very short presentation, and if I could just walk through it for a few minutes, and then we'll open it up to actions, comments, questions. Thank you. If we go to the next slide. So just to remind folks, we were here back at the end of March, and we expressed our desire to have the Select Board endorse the Climate Roadmap version 2. And we had mentioned then, and I'll repeat now, that what we're seeking for is not endorsement of every specific measure, no matter what. It's really the overall picture that this follows the town's vote at town meeting to establish the climate goal and to charge our committee to draft a guide to get there, and that's the roadmap. And our committee, work as sustainability coordinator, put this together to really lay out recommendations. And what we're looking for from the select board is to endorse this, to give a sign that select board agrees this is a good guide, and to then have us and select board, town manager, and other boards and committees and staff in town to work on some measures and to explore them to work and guide the town towards its goal. So I'll just say, if I had to boil it down to 6 words, what the roadmap suggests is on the topics of building efficiency, renewable energy, and transportation electrification. So that's really the kind of things that we're focusing on. So another ask that follows and is a part of that is to endorse the municipal building sustainable guidelines. This is something that we've developed over the last year or so in concert with the Permanent Town Building Committee, working on building projects in town. So it really goes with that first topic of building efficiency and making sure that when a building project comes, that there are some guidelines that the groups can focus on that is in line with our climate roadmap. And then third would be assigning a select board liaison to our committee. And this is something that we've heard and we think would be great. And then fourthly, that we heard from the last meeting that I wanted to reflect and offer, if there are any more specific thoughts on, is discussion of CEASC representation with the Permanent Town Building Committee. So I'm not being specific if this is membership or liaison or what, but I think it was mentioned at the last select board meeting and we thought it was a good idea, so we wanted to raise it again here, ask for your thoughts, recommendations on that. And it kind of ties into all the other things in terms of how do we get the town towards its goal. If you go to the next slide, please. So just to be a little more specific, we came with a cover letter that had about 15 of the top priorities from the roadmap, and you asked us for 2 or 3. We agreed. We worked to really get it down. Top 3 sort of municipal priorities. So what would what's in the power of the town government? What maybe would the town staff be able to work on, again in concert with our committee and other groups in town? So really, number 1 is to implement, and this is complete a municipal building-wide audit focusing on energy efficiency. We understand this has been going on with the Energy Services Company, or ESCO, and really this is our number one priority, just get it done. We want to assess the buildings in town, municipal government and school buildings, see where additional energy efficiency upgrades can be made. We understand that would include renewable energy potential, like solar potential on the roofs, and this really is going to be so critical just to seeing what more can be done to further enhance the energy efficiency of the buildings in town. And Sue, jump in if I'm missing anything on this item or this slide, but I'll finish the two and then let you jump in. All right. So the second is a solar siting plan, just to do assessment of where in town it would be a good place for solar. And again, this can include building roofs, but maybe it's other ground as well that's under the government control. It's worth just taking a comprehensive view, doing a plan so that planning and development can be done thoughtfully. And then third is on transportation, is to continue to transition the municipal fleet towards electric vehicles where it's possible, where it makes sense. But also very importantly is to go along with that is assess and enhance the charging infrastructure. So let me pause there. Sue, do you want to add that?
The only item I wanted to add is when we're discussing B1 and the energy efficiency assessment tool, it really builds on all of the electrical rate contract negotiations that we worked so hard on last month to keep the rates low for our municipal, residential, and commercial customers in town. But even with that, the market in general is rising, so those prices will go up, and so there is a budgetary hit to that for everyone. And so it's really important that we really get a handle on our energy efficiency. So the first step of a lot of what we're talking about is very traditional, back to the 1970s energy conservation discussion, first and foremost, because that will give us the year-over-year operating savings, and there's money out in the grant and rebate marketplace to help us do that and to procure it in various ways. So deciding, getting that assessment, deciding on our priorities, and then moving ahead to procure, it's really a very ripe time to do that, and a very effective time for the town by a lot of measures to do that. So that's why there's that's the first priority for the group. And the other two goals really are moving us into the future. So the first one sets a foundation, and the second and third and fourth, count T1 and T2 as two, are really helping us with the transition that we need to make as a town to move along with the rest of the state and the country.
Yeah, thank you.
One question is, just if I can interrupt. So, Kristen, if we approved I guess notionally approved a facility study at our last meeting last week. So how could that study be used to incorporate, B2?
I think they would go hand in hand. I think the facility study is more of a space and assessment of what we have and what the needs are related to space. I think the study that they're talking about, Eric, if you could just go one slide back, I think that's related to what do we currently have in terms of energy efficiency in our buildings and what are the potentials moving forward. So I think that they're two separate matters, but we could certainly link the discussions together.
Yes, good.
Well, actually, do you want to finish your presentation?
Yeah, no, that's it. Just the last slide.
Is that covered already? But the answer is not. Okay, so.
Right, thank you. Yeah, just the last slide just really reiterates our ask for tonight, really four asks. Yep, and that's it. And then we did, include some links to resources, our materials from last meeting, the roadmap, our website, so that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now, Andrea.
Okay, so I want to go back to the building assessment. And part of it is I need you guys to refresh my recollection, and I tried to do a little bit this. So we hired Amoresco to do an assessment. And I know that then we got sort of waylaid because of what happened at Cameron and et cetera. But where are we with that? Where is Amoresco with that? When do we expect a deliverable? And sort of, if somebody could please tell me where we stand with that.
So I can start that, and then if Sue wants to chime in, and Eric also has information. So Amoresco, we had met with, I think, 2 months ago, so I could have a refresher and an understanding because I had not worked with an ESCO before. And they gave the overview of the initial assessment that they have done, very high level, that there's certain projects that are related to lighting efficiency, certain projects that would be related to solar. They gave us kind of a menu of that service. What they've asked us to do is understand what our debt service capacity is to undergo some particular projects. But we are still working with them related to more detailed projects related to the investment grade audit that they had signed that contract with us. So Eric, are you able to chime in a little bit more, because I might be getting the terminology a little bit mixed up?
Absolutely. Can you hear me good out there?
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, so we are currently working with Amoresco just to narrow down. They've provided us a preliminary energy assessment that has a large variety of energy conservation measures for us to consider. Each of those has an associated estimated cost in terms of implementation. Right now, we are working to try to understand financially how much we are willing to take on in terms of debt service associated with this project. So right now, our facilities director and I are trying to refine that list to try to reduce it down to a number that is comfortable with the finance director and town manager.
So I guess in some ways it seems to me, I don't know, it seems backwards to me. Why should our building assessment be dependent upon what our debt service is? Why shouldn't we just be doing a building assessment, finding out, what the information is, what the projects may be, what we could or couldn't do, and then we look at, okay, what are the priorities and what can we afford within either our operating budget or within the debt service or whatever. So it seems backwards to me.
Yeah, I'm trying to get my heads around this as well, as this is my first time going through it. We've gotten a lot of questions, so we continue to ask those questions of Amoresco, review the contract of where we're at. So we'll come back with more answers, I promise.
Okay, and the other thing I guess is, this has been out there for a year and a half, 2 years now. I've lost track time, and
it was on hold a lot because of the Cameron issues, and we wanted to make sure we were going in the right direction.
Right. And I understand that, but I really think that
Close it up.
we need to move this along and put this as a priority.
Anything else?
Well,
no, before Andrea.
No, I'm good. I'm sorry. Yes, I'm fine.
Hey, Chris.
Well, just as a follow-up to your comment, so if Amoresco fails to deliver what we need, I was thinking along your line, Scott, that this facilities assessment would be a great place to potentially starting to investigate some of this information about energy efficiency, can the building support solar. I think if you're gonna go have somebody go to all these facilities, it would probably be efficient if they're looking at it from that perspective as well as just from a capacity perspective. And I also thought that we would be looking at these facilities as part of do we need any upgrades? Are they having any other building issues that we need to know about? Not just are they sufficiently satisfying our needs or not for office space, for example.
Yeah.
So.
I think there's two separate things. So there's kind of space analysis and needs of the town, and then there's actually inventory of how old is the boiler, how old is the roof, those two separate things. So I do not believe that was in the cost estimate that I presented to you related to the facilities assessment, but we can go back to the facilities department and see what that might be.
Okay.
Or see if Amoresco is doing that as part of their audit.
Tom?
I'm with everybody that I'm sort of disappointed with the whole Amoresco situation. So I'll work with Kristen to find the right time in the next couple meetings to have them come in and brief us on what is this thing and what do we expect. And so there'll be a time soon. We'll give them a little bit of time to prepare, but there'll be a time soon in the next 3 or 4 meetings where they'll come in and they'll brief us where we are so we can understand what we're getting for our money here.
Good.
Okay, any other comments? John?
Yeah, I think we really need to look at that vehicle situation, the infrastructure that's needed and the vehicles. And the timing's important here. Sometimes I think we're getting the cart before the horse. we've been getting these electrical vehicles, we have no concept of exactly how we're going to operate with them. What's the concept of operations, especially if we're looking at something like the police fleet or the others. So we start getting electrical vehicles, and then we're kind of scattered around with how we charge them. Where are the chargers? Where are we going to put those? Are those going to be, you know, at different sites, or are we going to have a central spot for them? And if we're talking about houses, or, you know, the population, everybody's going to have a charger if we're going to go electrical like that. And we charge at night. So I'm asking you, how would you go about developing this infrastructure, or coming up with a plan for the infrastructure and the transfer to electrical vehicles, and kind of the timing of it? Do we have to have a transition period where we use hybrids? Do we go, you know, whole hog and try to get electrical right away? A lot of things have happened lately that kind of say we may need to have a better plan and slow down a little bit. So how would you accomplish something like that?
Well, I would agree that we need a plan for this transition, and we need to be adaptable within that plan. And that we've acquired the vehicles, and we've had kind of an idea of how we're going to charge them. For example, I know the water department has a charger. They can charge at the water department. We have some municipal charging that is internal to our, you know, our particular locations. And then we have the public chargers that we put in at the schools in here at Town Hall that through the grant are required to remain public. So there's a balance between how much we can charge the municipal vehicles and also give the public access to those chargers. So we need a charger plan for the municipal vehicles. And then I think what we've learned is that the aggregation, which we're so blessed to have in Westford, the Westford POP program, means that it's much cheaper for our residents to charge at home. So we can expect that most residents who have the ability to charge at home will choose to put those chargers in at their home for economic reasons as well as convenience reasons. So then we're talking about our employees who come to town and our customers. And that's a town-wide discussion about, do we want people coming and staying in our hotels and charging overnight? Do we want them at the restaurants? How do we talk to the private sector about putting them in? They are starting to put them in on their own. Do we use that as a perk to attract businesses to town? Some of that's going to happen through the building code, which already mandates some charger readiness in our buildings. But yes, as a town, we need to now think about that charging infrastructure, who we're building for, and not just assume that they're going to come, but think through the economics of maintaining those chargers, the market for the electricity, and how we make that all work together. So my suggestion in pushing for this plan is that we think through those questions together, not just for the the very limited sort of municipal where we're very incrementally adding, and therefore we can absorb incrementally, but we think more globally about how this transition is going to happen within the town, not globally, but you know what I mean, town-wide. Further, there's the very separate question of the bus fleet for the schools. There's a huge grant out there that I'm now investigating and trying to work with the schools to think about, either for the special ed fleet or the actual yellow bus fleet. Do we contract for it? Do we lease it? Do we own it? There are advantages and disadvantages for both. But now's the time to start thinking about that. I've applied for free technical assistance through Mass Clean Energy Center to try to help us work through some of those questions very soon in the coming weeks to see if we are in a position where it would be valuable to the town to apply for that grant in August. So that's a whole, a whole separate can of worms, if you will. And so I'd like to see both of those going on in parallel, acclimating. So we've had also, just to back up, because we have the mail courier vehicle, that there was some hesitancy to take that vehicle on, and yet the driver is a huge fan now, and he's a car guy, and he loves the electric vehicle. But at first, I really had to kind of persuade him to adopt it. And so we are learning about how that particular vehicle charges and works behaviorally with the driver, and that's the very same vehicle that the water department will have. So we already have that example. And similarly, The assessor's vehicle is the same vehicle that the facilities director will have. So we're trying to be very conservative, if you will, in how we adopt these things so that our experience is translatable the next time around as we grow.
Yeah, well, I think we're reacting to the grants that we get, and we need a plan.
No argument.
On the bus thing, just one other thing on the bus thing. I thought that was a pretty targeted grant. And we weren't even really eligible as a town.
They're doing separate rounds. So the federal grants, as a rule, all of them, all of the large grants are very large. They're giving preference to environmental justice communities, rural communities, tribes, or very economically disadvantaged communities, which rules Westford out for a lot of that first priority money. But each of them then says, but if we have extra money, then other people can participate. And the state money is sort of being channeled the same way. They want to make sure, particularly with buses I'm talking about right now, they want to make sure that if you get federal money and you're a school district and you need 6 buses and you need additional help, then the state money will supplement that so that project is complete in its entirety in that region and eliminates that pollution, because with buses we're talking about air quality, health issues, and diesel, even much more than we're talking about emissions and climate. We're talking about a health problem. So that's why they've targeted those areas where those issues are more intense. But that the new grant program there is allowing for more flexibility, and when I have to investigate is it something that is worth our time, because a federal grant is a big lift to try to apply for. Would we be competitive? And does it make sense for Westford's goals, which may not be completely in line? We don't own our buses. You know, we have different circumstances that we're growing from. And that's why the technical assistance is important in helping us figure that out. And that's free.
Okay.
I just had one more comment on the general. You know, I'm in agreement with, I like the climate, or version 2 here of your plan. A couple of concerns. Are you familiar with the NC4, some of these regional groups that they're operating? I know you make a recommendation that we approve that or something like that.
I have been following. The NC4 is the North Central Climate Change Collaborative, and it was organized by some Pepperell Select Board members, and it's for everybody in the Middlesex 3 congressional district, so Lori Trahan's district, to collaborate, share information. And so I've been attending those meetings and sharing information, and I do recommend that Westford join, but it hasn't been a top priority, so I haven't come before you with that yet. But okay. I do think it is in our interest. It's one of my priorities, but not a top 3 priority. But certainly that collaboration, sharing information with other towns will be helpful.
I'm going to take a look at the MOU and
right. Sure it would involve an MOU.
Something that.
Right.
So there are some opportunities that the town has to sign MOUs to forge partnerships that might help us gather information through a group rather than through one person or one committee. Every committee in the region can share, or we can work with private parties to help market certain messages. But there are, of course, questions when you're going to sign an MOU, and the committee and I think, are being prudent in trying to investigate what that involves and what kind of commitment that would be before we bring that to you to discuss whether you want to go ahead.
I think that's the important part, bringing it to us, because you have a lot of these partner with, and and then to be determined on who's going to take the lead. Some things like that are still open, and I'd like to understand that before we just say, okay, great. I mean, I think it's okay, the version as it stands.
I think tonight you're asking us for 3 things explicitly, right? B2, E2.
Right. So again, high-level endorsement of the roadmap is not endorsement of every specific measure in there. And, sort of, again, an endorsement agreement that these make sense as top 3 municipal priorities. And many of them really are planning or complete an assessment of our buildings that is underway, right? That's really what it boils down to tonight.
Okay.
And then, as we said, also the building guidelines, again, that is one piece of the roadmap, but it is when a building project comes, work within these guidelines, which is check that there are incentives, federal and state incentives, make sure that it's as efficient as possible and reasonable, strive for net zero energy, which is going to save cost, consider the health and well-being of the occupants as well as the building. So that's really what I would say is in those building guidelines. Again, things that we have done for 51 Main Street and the library project. So that's really what I'd say is our ask tonight, but not more than that, right? Not to join NC4, not to do mass development pace. There's a lot of other measures that I think I would love for us to be doing, but that's not part of our top priority ask tonight.
Yeah, in terms of the second priority, which was the solar site selection, who would do that? Is that Susan? Is that town staff? I mean, if we said yes, it's a priority, who are we putting the burden on to make that happen?
So
Great question.
it is a great question. So we have some understanding that the Ameresco has completed a preliminary, I guess I would say, assessment of the solar potential of our roofs. There is a hurdle in that many of our roofs are old, which makes them not so solar ready and makes that discussion a larger discussion, because it may be that we're not going to be able to unlink the physical structure and status of the building from putting solar on it, because we just don't have a lot of young roofs. So there's the roof study, and then and if we don't get what we hope to get out of the Ameresco study for that, then there are vendors who actually the committee and the town have worked with in the past who can do the assessment outside of a financial arrangement up to a certain point, in terms of telling us what if that roof is, or that location, if it's ground mounted, is viable, if National Grid has the capacity to add that to their infrastructure, and kind of what we could expect as a return before we went out to bid and actually paid for anything. So who would do that? I would do the initial reaching out to those vendors with Jeff, with facilities, if in fact it didn't come through the investment grade audit process.
Okay, so I think we're back to whoever is talking to Ameresco,
Right.
make damn sure we get that figured out. When they come to talk to us, we know where what's included there.
Correct.
That takes care of B2 and E2, and I think we've kind of just hashed the transportation stuff. I guess my feeling on the building guidelines is I don't believe PTBC has ever taken a position on that.
So they actually were collaborating in creating that with our committee, with town staff as well. Yep, and that was used in a precursor of those guidelines. We're using 51 Main Street design. That document was used in the library expansion project and has been incorporated into the Nabnasset Fire Station design work. So I would say that they helped create it, have acknowledged it, and have agreed to use it in their work.
It's effectively in use. Yeah.
Okay, perfect, thanks. And then I guess that's the last two things I think were, how do we feel about a select board representative to the committee? And if someone says they want to do it, they should raise hands that they want to do it. So I guess first of all, do we think it's important? And secondly, is there a volunteer? Tom, do you volunteering, or you think it's a good idea?
Both. I wouldn't, if John's ready to jump on it, I'm happy to support John too. But it's critically important.
Yeah, John's supporting you, so.
John's supporting you, Tom.
Oh, no, jump in at once.
Thanks, John.
We'd love to have either one of you.
Okay, so I guess we've agreed we'll send somebody, and we'll let John and Tom figure out which one's going to show up, if not both. And then finally, I guess, was the request about the PTBC and.
Right, just wanted to check really what was the select board thinking? What is select board preference? Again, my request is I think it would be great to have some sort of formal, comments, direction from select board, to work on this, to pursue, pursue any changes, have a conversation. This really just following up on, given our asks, given where you are tonight, what makes sense for us to continue to work together, because we have worked together. We have come up with these
I was under the
guidelines.
assumption that you guys were working together.
We are, but one thing that's different is not a formal, position or liaison or something like that. So that really what has been, not in place. But again, we have had good experience with these jointly developed guidelines and with the building projects. But again, just wanted to see if there was something specific that Select Board had in mind.
Chris?
Do you have somebody on your committee that would be interested in being a representative to the PTPC?
I think we could find someone, right? I have been, covering those meetings and showing up for every meeting talking about 51 Main Street for the last 5 years. So I was, effectively a representative, covering that. But I wasn't a member, not a formal liaison, not a voting member. So that's where, having a little more direction from Select Board to our committee and Building Committee would help maybe formalize that. But yes, we've collaborated on that and library and other building projects. So that's where I just was wondering if there was something in mind. But certainly we will keep, collaborating.
I think the analogy is they've been living in a unit in our apartment building, but it's been tenant at will, not a formal lease, right? So, Kristen,
I think, and I haven't had any formal conversation with any of you about this, so it's just coming to mind right now, is that, we're rethinking our facilities through the facilities assessment. Should we be rethinking the Permanent Town Building Committee, having someone from Clean Energy on there, someone from Public Facilities, something else? So I think we could have this conversation, at a future meeting as well. Or is there a need or a desire to change the Permanent Town Building Committee? Has it been working to your satisfaction? So,
Well, Permanent Town Building Committee is doing a fantastic job. They're one of the hardest working committees we have in town. And you've seen some of the results of that. And I think having CESC as a representative on that committee would be what we need. I think that would be a good add to the committee. But you're going to be working hard.
I think Tom has something too.
So
Tom?
I was going to say, I think there's 4 well-scripted requests from this committee. So if we're ready to move to any kind of motion, endorsing the roadmap, I think it's well considered. I think the priorities seem right. I think the guidelines sound good. I think we should have liaisons. We'll figure out who that is. Either me or John will arm wrestle for it. And having a representation on the Permanent Town Building Committee makes a ton of sense. So if we're ready to move this forward, I would be ready to move to endorse all 4 of the requests that are in the document.
So is that the motion?
I believe so.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, so any further discussion? Audience? Okay, so all in favor, Tom?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Andrea? Aye. John?
Aye.
I'm an aye. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Next, update from the Scholarship and Grant Committee on their funds and announcement awards for 9 $1,000 scholarships to Westford Academy seniors. Christy Bates, I don't see her. Is she? Oh, there you are. Okay.
Confirm site.
I was looking for you on here, but okay.
Hi, I'm Christy Bates. I'm the chair of the Scholarship and Grant Committee, and I just want to say thank you for giving us the opportunity to give an update on the committee. And I want to start with a brief history of the Scholarship and Grant Committee, because part of the reason I'm here is I don't think a lot of people know about this committee. It's been around since it was approved at town meeting in 1997. The committee was active until the early 2000s. I'm not sure when it disbanded, but it seems like it did. And then in 2014, John Mangiarotti, our former assistant town manager, asked the select board to appoint new members and reopen it, and they did. The last scholarship was awarded in 2016, and the committee was getting ready to offer more scholarships, and then COVID hit, and they stopped meeting for a while. So we've gotten a new committee. We it had been 9 members at one point. It was down to 5, so we could have a quorum. So there are five members. In addition to me, there's Andrea Meha is the superintendent designee. Seema Pulsakar and Brock Moses are also on the committee. And we have one open position if anyone's interested. So the committee this year decided to distribute 10 $1,000 scholarships to the class of 2023. We worked with the guidance department at both Westford Academy and Neshoba Tech. Applications were available online at the schools, along with their many other scholarships that they have. And each school has a scholarship selection committee, and we worked with that committee. So they went through the applications. We received, Westford Academy received over 80 of them for these scholarships, and that committee selected the recipients. So I just wanted to, they've been announced before at the awards ceremonies, but I just wanted to read their names here. There were 9 at Westford Academy. Those were Joshua Bearfield, Kyle Fan, Joshua Forty, Benjamin Jones, Sophia Kang, Kirsten O'Connell, Ava Seidlinger, Madison Walsh, and Andy Zinn. And at Neshoba Tech, we had Chloe Greenslade. I just want to congratulate them. They've already received those awards and wish them good luck next year. And also to thank all the donors who have contributed to these scholarships. And those monies have been coming in since 1997. And even though the committee was down for a while, we still had some generous Westford taxpayers who contributed to it. So we were happy to distribute those funds this year. So after these awards, the revolving fund scholarship account has just under $9,000. We plan to award more scholarships next year for the class of 24, and we hope that people will continue to donate to the scholarship fund. We do have a generous community. As long as people are aware of this, you probably don't know where it is, or many don't. I have been paying taxes in Westford for 25 years, and I didn't realize that if I turn over my property tax form on the back, if I hold it up, no one's going to see it, but if you turn over your property tax form, on the top it says Town of Westford Local Funds. The Scholarships Fund is right at the top, and Arts and Technology Fund is under that. And we also manage, that's the grants of Scholarship and Grants Committee. So money can be donated to the Town of Westford there. You can also go on to the City Hall system, which is the online system that's used to pay taxes and other bills. And there is a donation option. And that link can be found pretty easily on westfordma.gov/SAG for scholarship and grant. So, and that, as I mentioned, the grant, so we do give out grants as well, although I'm not sure when the last one was given out. We focused on scholarships this year, and next year we are gonna give out the grants. We just have about $2,000 in that account. So not a lot of grants, but hopefully enough for a few teachers or people in the schools to do something special. And that's it. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thanks.
Thank you, and congratulations to all the scholarships.
All right, thanks so much. Oh, and one more thing, excuse me. As a happy coincidence, Westford Cat has an article about these scholarships published today.
So just before you run off, like you, I did not know that those property, on the property tax bill, there was an option there. So maybe we can work with whomever in town staff is responsible for that to see if we can make it a little bit more noticeable for folks, rather than having on the back.
Yeah. Like please turn over.
Right. Something. Right.
I know for so many years I didn't turn it over.
If we are sending it out, we might as well make it as visible as possible.
And Chris, I've talked with the treasurer collector about, and the assessor about actually creating videos to put on Westford Cat about your assessment and your tax bill and how to read them. So perhaps we could put a blurb in a video.
Please turn over.
Exactly.
Don't forget to turn over.
That's a great idea. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Next, we have a request to review and act to sign a letter of support for the Joint Committee on Advanced Information Technology, the Internet, and Cybersecurity, which we have, I think, was in a packet.
So it was a late add to the packet, but Sarah Fletcher of WCAT has asked the Select Board to sign a letter of support to the State Joint Committee of Information Technology, Internet, and Cybersecurity. I think she alluded to in one of her presentations in the past few months that the state of cable is changing and the way that their funding is changing. So this letter addresses that and requests additional state funding to that end.
I'll move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, Chris?
Aye.
Andrea? John?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
I'm an aye. Next, review and act to make one Northern Middlesex Council of Government Select Board appointment and one alternative appointment. We've got two requests and two people. This is actually really nice. Bruce Rosenberg and Jim Silver. Bruce is here. I don't see Jim unless he's online. No. Okay, so Bruce, if you want to make your request in person, feel free.
Okay, I know you're running late, so I'll try not to be too wordy. Bruce Rosenberg, I've been a member of the Economic Development Committee since 2016. Its chair from January of 2019 through August of 2021. Through that committee, I've had long-standing interactions with NIMCOG, mainly initially through their DLTA grants to us that involved updating the permitting guide, holding Westford business forums. We actually had them do, believing that we were going to have an updated comprehensive master plan. They actually went through an activity with us in 2020. In 2019, Jay Donovan, who at that time was the assistant director, invited me to join one of their committees as the Westford representative, SEDS, their Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy Committee. I've been working on that since. COVID obviously created some new urgency, which resulted in an additional plan, an economic recovery and resiliency plan. And most recently, I've joined a subcommittee that's looking to create some marketing and tourism branding for the nine communities. So I've had an interaction with them, but I would call myself, let's say, a minister without portfolio, though, for the last 5 years. So that's the quick summary.
Okay, thanks. So we have a motion.
And if I can just add, Mr. Silva has been the alternate member for the town of Westford for quite some time. So again, before you have your appointment. I believe that no one on the board wanted that, so we had asked for appointments, and then we also have that alternate seat that's available as well.
So what's the pleasure?
Oh, no, I'll move to appoint Bruce Rosenberg as our designated NIMCOG, with Jim Silva as our alternate.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, so all in favor, John?
Aye.
Andrea?
Yep, aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
And I'm an aye, so congratulations, Bruce, you're now official. You don't have you have a portfolio.
Thank you very much.
A very small dollar value portfolio. But you have, request to sign land damage agreement as amended by MassDOT for Boston Road reconstruction project. Steve, I see you're out there. I thought you were.
Yes, he is there.
I thought that's all right.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Thank you. Yep. So we're just, we've been going back and forth with Town Council and Mass DOT on amending language on the land damage agreements for Boston Road. They've made some suggested edits. Town Council has reviewed it at this point. It's just minor modifications to indemnification language, and we recommend that it gets approved by the Select Board tonight.
Any questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, Andrea?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Thanks, Steve. Request to approve Community Preservation Act grant agreement for the Food Sustainability Project and Well Installation Project at Meadowbrook Farm, 1 to 5 Gould Road, as approved at the 2023 annual town meeting. I don't see Bob out there, but Kristen, can you speak to it?
I can, certainly, and Eric's on call if needed. So as you may recall from town meeting, Mr. Waskiewicz went through CPA to request a recommendation for 2 projects. One for a food sustainability project related to farming on his property and a portion of the town property that he leases, as well as a well installation. That area of town does have town water. However, this type of operation would require a well for better, in his purpose, for financial reasons. We have worked with Mr. Waskiewicz through the town meeting and to date related to the location of the well and the location of the farming field. And in a meeting and with sketches, there's a sketch in your packet, it is determined that the well is going to be located on his private property and not on the town of Westford's property. I know that that was a concern related to water contamination. Subsequently, we've also worked with town council to draft 2 grant agreements through CPC. If we're going to be giving public dollars to private entity related to CPC, we would have a grant agreement in place and certain standards, including indemnification, that the grant awardee would be required to commit to. Mr. Waskiewicz has signed both of those documents. Our legal counsel drafted them and is certainly fine with them. So this evening we'd be asking for the board to authorize the signature of 2 grant agreements, one for the food sustainability project and the second for the well project.
I do have a question. In both of those agreements under conditions, says the work is set forth in the proposal in this agreement shall be completed by blank.
Mm-hmm.
There's no completion date put in there.
Yep.
You know, I'm not suggesting one. I want to give them as much time as necessary, but we probably should put something in there.
Yeah, we'll reach out to him tomorrow, and I will circle back with the board to make sure that they're satisfied with that.
So you want to make a motion pending a date, or do you want to
No,
wait for
I'm
the...
happy to make the motion to approve both agreements pending pending receiving date of completion. That's agreeable to the board.
Okay, so is there a second?
Second.
Okay, so all in favor, or any comments from the audience? Okay, so Chris?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Andrea?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
I'm an aye, so. Next, which I think is everybody else who's left here tonight is for this one. So request to approve a marker to be placed on Canal Drive for former Westford Police Chief Joseph Cannell. Terry, I think you're chair of the Monuments Committee, so if you want to speak to that.
Great. Yes, Terry Stater, the chair of the Monuments and Memorial Committee. Committee was formed last year, and we put a policy together in August. And this application came in April, and it's to honor Police Chief, former Highway Supervisor, Director, Chief Joe Cannell, and to put on Canal Drive a marker to honor his extraordinary service to the town of Westford. We went through, had several conversations with the applicant, had several discussions about locations and the marker itself, and we came up with this as a complete package. As a part of the policy was to submit it to the Board of Selectmen for a final review. We did send it out to a group, to all the department heads in the town, and there was a 2-week period where they provided comments. We got a set of comments. Again, this is the first time we've used this new policy, so I'm not sure how many people just saw it and said, oh, monuments, memorials, this doesn't apply to me, and overlooked it. But there was several comments, and we got a number of comments, and there has been a number of comments when the item appeared on the agenda, and I think you have been a recipient of several emails and written copies as letters as well. But at this point, the Monuments and Memorial Committee did what we thought was our charter, to review it, to make sure it was a complete package, and submit it to the Select Board for their review and consideration.
And what was the vote of the committee? The
vote of the committee was, we have 7 members, 5 for, 1 against, and 1 was a recusal because he is the applicant.
Thank you. And I just,
Of course, the committee voted just this, that the vote was to send it on to the select board for review. Obviously, there were comments for and against as far as it being the right kind of a monument. Our goal is not to determine the demographics of who is on the monument or who the request is. We just are to make sure it meets the requirements of the policy and submit it on to the select board for their consideration.
so,
So there's several here. This is the depiction of the applicant is here, by the way, and can answer any questions. But it's there's a map. It's not going to be right at the intersection of Canal Drive and Main Street. It's going to be set back already. The DPW folks have already been out looking at it from a dig safe perspective as well as placement. Landscaping has been considered. A number of things have all been already considered on this, and it's within the Westford Historic District, so there's a lot of different special interests, I guess, that are interested in this as well. So that's the location of it. Canal Drive is a family name. We thought it was very appropriate rather than going up on the common or locations that were discussed were on the common as well as over at Public Safety Square or a number of other places. But the family name resides there on Canal Drive. So
thanks. I know we did get the member who voted against. I did. So it's Paul Murray. He's not nothing secret. I did forward it to all of you on the board and Kristen. I noticed it did not make it into the correspondence. We should fix that because it should have been in the correspondence. But his objections, and since I can't read it because it's not in the correspondence, but basically centered around, I think I would say two things. One is it belongs probably in his opinion, it was not a good representation of Chief Cannell. It was just an eagle that he thought that there were other better examples perhaps in other town buildings of memorials with a person's likeness on them. And it perhaps it belonged in the police station. And then secondly, the concern that there are many, many deserving citizens of Westford, past and present, and a concern about creating a monument farm, I think was his exact quotation, that I can use with his permission. So that was the objection that it maybe better sit elsewhere with a better representation, or sort of a more accurate representation of him physically. That's just, but you all saw that, so just put it out there for the public to be aware that it was mentioned.
Well, I think we built the application process so that it would be open to anybody. We tried not to. We've heard that there are too many veteran markers. I mean, being a vet, I don't expect one, but I'm just saying is that there, and we encourage all applications from everywhere. We've had, as you saw, we had the Westford Recreation Department with the main family stone that got put in. So we want to encourage anybody to do it. Yes, we don't want to have a monument farm, but we should. We did what we thought we'd do is let it pass the decision on to the select board, and if they had any questions, we may have to adjust the policy a little bit or whatever, but help us help you make this decision is where we're at.
So I just want to make sure we get that open for Paul. Any other board comments?
Well, I like it. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I think we ought to approve it. We can nitpick this thing till, cows come home, but I think we ought to. I think about approving.
Okay, Chris, so you had your hand up.
I just had a comment. I thought that, reading through all the sort of due diligence work that your committee did was nice and admirable, and I appreciate that. And as far as I know, there's not a huge backlog of applications at this point for monuments. Is there?
Two more coming.
Two more coming. And those might be for...
In the cemetery, those are markers to, with the Historical Commission to give a QR code on a marker so people can walk in
we have lots of projects that we're hearing about, but this is the first formal one. We do have 2 in queue right now that we're getting for two cemeteries, which we'll get to you as soon as we've got all the information and have put it out to the policy review.
But, we heard from one of your committee members a concern about, a monument farm situation. Do you, or does the committee as a whole feel that that is an issue at this time period?
Well, I think we have to look at the placements of them. This was a unique, we have the POW KIA signs that we put in neighborhoods for those that died. Those, 78 of them are around town. And I don't consider those monument farms. That's a lot. When we put together a list of things for DPW to look at, we have about, I think it's 170 markers and monuments and placards and everything else in town already. We aren't trying to get rid of any of them, but there's a lot of them in town, yes. But it's a big town, square miles, a lot of room.
Anything else, Chris?
Yes, Sam, thank you.
Tom?
So I have so much gratitude for you, Terry, and for David for your artistry. So I guess I feel like there's a policy question for us as a town, which is, do we want to, I know it's not the mandate of the Monuments Committee as currently constituted, but do we want to think about who we're recognizing? Because I think about, the first woman who went to MIT, was from Westford, which is exciting. I think about the World War I recruiting when there were 25 languages when they were recruiting because there were so many immigrants at the town at the time. I just feel like I know it's not the mandate of this committee, but I wonder if we want to change the mandate or postpone this decision or think a little bit more. I just want to make sure that we're being deliberate about who we're recognizing. And I know that the queue of people who are asking for this, it's the queue that we have, but I just wonder if we want to back up a little bit and say, as a whole community, are we recognizing and celebrating in the right way, or a complete way, not the right way, but so I guess my feeling, for the board, just my input is, I wonder if we want to hold on this and see if we want to think about another way to go about who we're recognizing and how we're recognizing them. Because I think there's so much to celebrate, and I know that they're not submitting applications, so we got to solve that problem. But I just want to make sure we're doing that in a broad way before we, do one more like we've done before.
So I guess if I could, I'll give my opinion, and you can, but this came to us already once before, and we postponed it to get we formed a Monuments Committee to come back and report to us. So now we're, on our second, listening to this. So I'm not really eager to put it off to a third. And even if we were to look at criteria, I think, okay, we've got a basic career public servant in town, a combat veteran in Korea, which was extremely unpleasant, as all combat is, but Korea especially. So I think anything we would put on a paper, I think probably would qualify with Chief Cannell anyway, so I'm not inclined to postpone it based upon that. And I agree, there are other members, and I would like to broaden the field. And I've actually talked to David about other people he has in mind that are not traditional monument candidates. Right. So I think that will take care of itself with time. Mm-hmm. But Terry, if you wanted to.
Well, and I just reiterate that we looking to open this up to anything. Obviously, 9/11 was a tragic event for this country, and we've honored with benches that are on the common that supposedly is sacred land, which is fine, and it should be preserved and kept in a pristine condition, as well as the monument that's up at the public safety. So we have to expect that there could be events that may have a short proposal period or whatever you want to call it. But I think besides just being people, we may want to look at events too down the road. So again, the process is let anybody apply. We'll open it up. Please let us know who.
Okay, so Andrea, then I got my ask in the audience to speak to.
Okay, so I've actually I've really thought about this and I have quite frankly, struggled with, where I come out and what I approve it. And part of the reason is what Tom articulated, which is that this is not your committee's charge. This is on us. This is on the select board. But we don't have, and we have not set forth any criteria, as Tom said, about how we decide, who should be, where a monument should be, who a monument should, honor in our town. And I think that that's something that we have to do. But that being said, as you said, Scott, this is the second time that this has been before us. We put you off once. And while I have some hesitation about it, it's given sort of where it's going and how it's being recognized, I'm prepared to support it. But I really want to get in place a policy about how we determine who, how the monuments move forward and who's going to be memorialized and who's going to be honored before we entertain any other. And I know you said you've got some in the queue, but before we entertain any others and before you bring any others before us, I think we need to have that policy in place.
So, yep, as I was, next point was Marilyn, if you want to come forward and tell us who you are and speak.
It's awkward. Thank you. A few years ago, I think there was a policy put in place about monuments, cleaning up the common, simplifying it, uncluttering it, and that applied to more than just the common. It applied to the historic district in Westford Center. And now we're adding this monument. We're getting it off the common, but it's just a few feet away. I just don't see it there. And as you say, there are so many people that are deserving. Why have we picked out this one? Charlie Hildreth comes to mind. 52 years a town clerk. Now we should be doing a monument to him. So many others. Doctors, school teachers, bus drivers, shopkeepers. Let's not be short-sighted. Thank you.
Thanks. Anybody else? Take your pick. You're tall, maybe you want the same, Mike.
How you doing? I'm Joe Connell Jr., 3 Connell Drive. I just want to thank you for considering this today. I know my father, lived in town his whole life, with pretty much the exception of his service in the Marine Corps. As you said, he saw combat in the Marines. Excuse me. And after his tour in the Marines, he returned to Westford. Bought the property, bought the Connell Drive, put the road in, and then worked for the town for about 40 plus years. Probably the most notably 30 plus as chief. He was very proud of his service to the country. Excuse me, very proud of his service to town, and I know he'd be honored by this marker. So I would encourage you to support it, and I appreciate the support. Thank you.
Alex Connell Drive. I think listening to the discussion, what happens is what kind of criteria you choose. I mean, that's what's going to determine what goes in next. This is the one before you, and I don't think there's anyone more deserving of something like this who served not only the town, but the country as much as Joe Connell did. So, I do agree you set up this committee. Maybe they should have had a course in mind that they would follow. Maybe it's something that has to be revised, but the point is this is the one before you now, and I think the person that is being honored is certainly deserving. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hi, Edith Jo Comply, 3 Fieldstone Drive.
I have to admit, I didn't come here for this today, but it has been a really interesting conversation. And, you know, either way, whatever happens, I think it'll prove interesting. I think an idea that might be considered for the future is a living monument or memorial. We have a lot of deserving living people, students, and, you know, others who would benefit from the stories of people like Connell and others who have dedicated their lives to public service or, you know, the betterment of the town, and finding a way to invest in those individuals who are alive by, you know, relaying the stories that occur right here. And then, you know, providing some type of, we talked about scholarships even earlier today, providing a scholarship where they're really informed about, you know, the history of the town and some of the people who have been, you know, created true citizenship here. Might be a way to kind of kill two birds with a stone, so to speak. Not the greatest metaphor here, but you know, I do think, you know, this town has had wonderful individuals, and we really should be able to reflect on them and share their stories forward. So, thank you.
Dave? And Dave, I know Dave, so I'm going to say, please keep it brief.
No, very good. You all know my feelings about this, obviously, so I'll leave it at that. But I wanted to point out what Edith just said. The Westford Museum, over the last few years, has been collecting a lot of audio from many of our veterans, many people like Marilyn and various different people, and they do a wonderful job, and you can go on there. I went on there today and listened to a bunch of them in between calls at work. And it's really good. Is this recorded?
Yes.
It's really good to actually listen to their voices and listen to them hear the story. You see names, you hear, maybe you see pictures, you don't truly understand the name on the wall, or like I said before, there are 100 plaques all over and nobody really looks at them. But go on the museum site and you actually hear their voice, or some are videoed so you can see them talking, and it really changes the perspective on what you think of them or what you thought of them. Especially if you hadn't heard from them in like 20, 30 years, and then you listen to them as they age or they get older, they change a little bit, and you can learn a lot from them. So that's all I was going to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nancy? Only person left, I think, who hasn't spoken, so.
Nancy Cook, Clerk of Monuments and Memorial Committee. We were formed to do a charge. We were told they had to be dead people that came before us. So what we have done is come up with that charge. We were presented with Chief Connell's monument. David does have some other monuments in mind for other people. I wish you had talked about them. But to Edith's point, Westford Academy alumni does 5 scholarships for people that were very big in town. Elva Judd Rollins, I'm sure nobody has a clue who she is. She was huge in Westford Academy. We give a scholarship and her story. The very first chief of police, Mr. Sullivan, Chief Sullivan, we have a scholarship in his daughter's honor, same thing. But we were given a charge to handle what came before us. What came before us was the chief, and whether you liked him or not, who was more fitting for that on that spot than Chief Connell? I mean, that's just my opinion. Sorry.
Actually, I know it's about time, but Dave, actually 2 requests. I know you did share with me 2 of your thoughts. Caesar was one, and another gentleman who was Native American who did bike. I think it's worth sharing that you've got ideas for people who are lots of traditional.
Caesar Basin, we're not sure if he was a slave or he was free at the time of the Revolutionary War. He was the only African American that served with Westford Minutemen, and he was killed at Bunker Hill. His story is incredible, what we know of it. Also, Mr. Gilmet, a Native American chief, also immigrant, lived in Westford on Groton Road. He built thousands and thousands of bicycles for the kids in the community. My first bicycle, 4 kids, yes, in the community, and not for himself, yeah.
And my first bicycle, because my parents couldn't afford it, was from him. And it was a weird-looking bike, but it worked. And he also taught, his family taught Native American culture to so many people all around here. And again, that's just somebody, he was a veteran. It's very hard to find people that weren't veterans in Westford historically. But it's other things that they did and who they were, their backgrounds that are really important. So I totally agree with Edith and Marilyn about there are other people. It's not, this just happens to be a veteran, so. Yeah.
Okay, I think we've heard from everybody in the room, so is there a motion for the board to, okay, Tom? You have your hand up still.
Just, I'm amazed by Joe too, and I also served in Korea, so I have that connection. I just want to make sure we're addressing the issue of, it's sort of a wonky question, but so this committee is really a regulatory sort of approving, make sure the standards are met. The question for the group is, how do we make sure we're getting these amazing people who, school children will recognize themselves in, and I just want to make sure we're getting these nominations going. So do we need a different group to do that? Or I don't think this committee has that remit. So how do we make sure that happens as a follow-up?
Well,
I think we need to probably need to talk about that at a meeting, Tom, at a separate meeting, as opposed to tonight, because I agree with you. We need to figure out the best way to get all of these, to learn about these people, to find out who these people are, and to bring them in. So.
Well, I would just observe, Marilyn asked me what exactly is this committee voting on when they were voting, and the charge says to recommend. It doesn't say to be the gatekeeper. It says to recommend, but we give them no criterion upon which to make a recommendation. So effectively, it becomes yes, it's met the regulatory requirements. So I think what we need to do is say, if we really want this committee to do recommendations, we have to give them better guidelines to formulate those recommendations than they have. So I agree, but I think that the charge is to get it reworked a little bit too, because it's a little misleading right now in terms of how it could be viewed. But I would take that offline for different meetings. This is 9 o'clock, and focus on this tonight, and then you're back, Tom. You can pick your own agenda night for more detail. Chris?
I mean, would it make sense, since these folks are pretty close to this whole process already, just to ask them to give some thought about how maybe they would frame a different charge that would include more analysis and potentially prioritization of candidates or candidate applications that come forward, and then they can come to us and we can collaborate with them on that.
Right, but I just want to take all that off the table tonight and focus on.
Well, I'm saying if we give them some direction now, then when we bring it back the next time, we'll at least have some input to work with, rather than starting from scratch again.
Fair enough.
That's all my point. I'm just trying to move things along.
I can have our staff do some research of other municipalities as well.
Yeah.
Best practices.
Okay, so with that in mind, is there a motion to approve or not the canal for Joseph Canal?
I make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, so all in favor, Tom?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Andrea?
Aye.
John? Aye. I'm an aye. So thank you for all of your attendance, all your input, all your work.
Thank you.
Any committee boards or updates? I dare you. No, seriously.
Now that you said no.
None? Okay. Minutes for approval and for release, regular sessions, April 11th, 2023, April 25th, 2023, May 5th, 2023, May 9th, 2023, May 17th, 2023, and May 23rd, 2023.
Move to approve.
Second.
And release.
And release.
Okay. We have a motion and a second.
Yep.
Well, the only difficulty is I wasn't present for a couple of those.
Okay,
so I don't know if I
want to break it in pieces.
Okay, so I can say something to that, though.
Okay, good.
You can abstain if you want to, but basically you're approving to put them in the record.
Oh, that makes it easy. Very good. Thank you for
Okay,
the
so we have a
clarification.
motion and a second. All in favor, Andrea?
Yes.
Chris?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
I'm an aye. And then to approve but not release executive session of May 5th, 2023.
So I'm not sure if those actually got out to the board.
Yeah, it looks like maybe you didn't see those. Oh, okay.
So we'll push that.
I didn't realize I
We'll
had
push
to
that.
send them to you. I only sent them to Pam.
Okay.
Okay, so we shall postpone.
Never
that.
mind.
Which takes us to,
Sue, could you just open the door? I'm sorry. Thank you.
so we're right on time at 8:15. Kristen, town manager's report.
Sure. So in the town manager's report, we have grants, contracts, and purchase orders. Just wanted to note and congratulate the team that the town of Westford was granted $500,000 for remediation efforts associated with 12 North Main Street. That's a federal Environmental Protection Agency grant, and I pulled the team together to review the parameters of that grant as well as other grants we've received, planning documents that have been performed before, and present to the board at a future meeting our plan moving forward related to that property and some ideas there. So if anybody wants to talk offline about that, I'm happy to do that as well. But congratulations to the team. That's a huge grant, and it was federally announced, I believe, in Michigan or Wisconsin on May 25th. And I met with Congresswoman Trahan last week, and she wants to do some sort of event here in Westford in August. So we'll certainly plan that up and invite those who would like to come. The next item 2, is a DEP grant for 2 electric vehicles in the amount of $15,000. So this is 1 vehicle for the water department and 1 for the facilities department that are EVs.
I have a question. When I was looking at the grant, it says we have to purchase them by, like, within, I believe, 60 days. Are we going to be able to do that?
I believe we have. Sue, do you have the information on that?
We've already got the quotes, and so they should be able to place the orders tomorrow if you approve. And as far as we know, yes, we should.
Okay.
These terms were in place for the previous EVs as well, and I think they were agreed when the term extended. So we're good.
I just wanted to make sure that we were going to meet the deadline.
No, I appreciate
Right,
that.
absolutely. Yep.
Were these, excuse me, were these vehicles, are they going to replace other vehicles?
Yes,
or are
my
these
understanding is that
additional?
they will be replacing other vehicles.
I understand the list of eligible vehicles is kind of limited, isn't it, or sources? I looked at that list that they said there's something EV 110 or something.
The list for the federal
Yeah.
tax credit that the municipality is technically now eligible for, but I cannot figure out exactly how we're going to submit that because it hasn't been published by the IRS yet. It is a different set of lists than the list that this grant applies for. So this grant is much broader, and we definitely fulfill those requirements, and I'll keep track of the others.
Okay, thanks, Sue. Okay, go ahead.
All right, so onto contracts. So a contract with Woodard and Curran for the fiscal year 24 perchlorate monitoring and assessment activities associated with the 2004-2005 construction of the highway garage for $66,500. Tyler Technologies for Muse upgrades to maintain legal compliance and fix problems in the amount of $156,151. Contract amendment for the construction phase services of the Oak Hill Road, Plain Road, and Moore Road stormwater project in the amount of $93,000. Nestra Design Services for the Stony Brook Track and Athletic Courts renovation project in the amount of $133,500. The municipal interagency municipal aid agreement for the Middlesex County Police Department as requested. This does not have a dollar amount as it's a municipal aid agreement, and the cost may vary there. The Sigma service agreement for cardiovascular screenings for police, fire, and dispatcher, which you approved with ARPA funding for $77,000. And a request to approve Illusion Company Incorporated for the Abbott wastewater facility rehabilitation project for $270,980. So I'll pause there.
I just have 2 questions. Is Steve Cronin still with us?
Yes, he is.
The contract amendment to the construction services on Oak Hill, Plain Road, and Moore Road, how did it come to be that we have to have a $93,000 amendment to the contract?
Eric, can you promote Steve? I see his, there we go. He's up, there we go.
Yes. So we've taken a phased approach to this entire project. This is the third phase of the project. So as each phase has gone through, we've done a contract amendment for construction phase services. So we've looked at basically what's needed to get us through to completion, and asked TEC to provide us with an amendment based on that. So that's what you have before you tonight.
Thank you. And the design services for Stony Brook Track, somebody remind me, was that CPC funded?
I believe that was CPC, yes.
Okay, thank you.
So do you want to actually take a vote on everything so far? So is there a motion to approve the grants and contracts?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, John?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Andrea?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
I'm an aye. Okay. Purchase orders.
Great. Purchase orders is quite lengthy as we're getting to the end of the fiscal year. Park Place Technologies for equipment maintenance in the amount of $14,970 for the technology department. Presio FlexNet for product updates and support for all Cisco phones for $32,400 from the technology department. Presio SmartNet for product software and hardware for technical systems for Cisco devices in the amount of $13,681. Verona Software for support and licenses for $10,470 for technology department. Comcast for the emergency line data network in the amount of $19,500 from the technology department. Dennis K. Burke for gas and diesel fuel for the Department of Public Works in the amount of $28,231. Colonial Municipal Group for services of vehicles in the amount of $136,030 for the Water Department. CDW for Chromebooks for incoming 6th and 9th graders in the amount of $199,488 from the Technology Department. Educate Me Chromebook cases in the amount of $25,950 as requested by the Technology Department. Comcast for SIP circuits for the town phone system in the amount of $1,400 from the Technology Department. American Alarm for security system support in the amount of $56,616 from this technology department. LHS Associates for 14 poll pads for $22,150, ARPA, Patty. FirstNet Cellular charges for first responder cell phones in the amount of $57,700 by the technology department. And finally, the Equate recording system in the amount of $14,489,000 for the replacement of the E911 for the police department, which we also talked about under ARPA.
Just one question. Since Steve's out there still, so I guess the maintenance for vehicles, is that routine maintenance? Is that special maintenance? I guess what's that's a big number. Is that for a scheduled fleet arrangement? Just asking.
Steve, are you able to hop on that?
Yeah, is this for the water department vehicles?
Yes, it is.
Yep, so this is actually for the purchase of the 2 vehicles that Sue got the grants for.
So it's not, it's not.
So it's purchase of service vehicles, not service.
Okay, thank you. Never mind. My glasses are not trifocally right. Okay, thank you. Is there a motion to approve the purchase orders?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Chris?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Andrea?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
I'm an aye. And that takes us to correspondence. Is there any?
Move to waive.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? John?
Aye.
Andrea?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
And motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Tom?
Aye.
Good night. or good morning, actually.
Morning.
Chris?
Yes,
Aye.
it's 3:10 in the morning here.
Oh, jeez.
Andrea?
Morning, Mr. Clay.
John? Aye.
Aye.
And I'm an aye. So, thank you. Good night, Westford.